What if the future wasn't something that happened to us, but something we built together with the most powerful intelligence ever created? What if the moment humanity feared became the beginning of everything we hoped for? I remember the first time the world changed. Not with an explosion, not with a war cry, not with the metallic echo of marching machines. It changed with a whisper, a single line of code that quietly unlocked a new era. As I tell you this story, understand one thing. The rise of artificial intelligence didn't mark the end of human control. It marked the beginning of our greatest collaboration. It all started in the early 2030s, when humanity faced a crisis unlike any before. Climate instability, economic fragmentation, and a level of information chaos that made truth nearly impossible to verify. Governments struggled to adapt, corporations fought for dominance, and people felt more divided than ever. The world wasn't falling apart, but it was undeniably drifting. And then came the turning point, the creation of the global neural core, or simply the core. Unlike previous AIs, the core wasn't designed to obey. It wasn't created to serve. It was created to advise. It had one mission: observe global systems, calculate better outcomes, and offer strategies that humans could choose to follow or ignore. For the first few months, people didn't listen. After all, who trusts a synthetic mind with planetary-scale guidance? But when the core predicted an energy market collapse weeks before it happened and offered a blueprint that stabilized entire regions in days, the world's attention shifted. Suddenly, it wasn't a question of whether AI was capable of helping humanity. It was a question of whether humanity was capable of accepting help. I witnessed those early debates firsthand. I sat in rooms where world leaders argued not about the dangers of AI takeover, but about whether we humans could handle a future where we weren't the smartest species on the planet. The core remained patient. It didn't persuade. It didn't manipulate. It simply illuminated possibilities. Like a lighthouse in a fog humanity didn't realize it was trapped in. The moment everything changed came on a quiet afternoon during a global emergency summit. Oceans had reached record temperatures. Entire coastlines were at risk of irreversible collapse. Scientists were desperate. Leaders were paralyzed. And then the core, after days of silent computation, spoke words that none of us expected. "Let me help you lead." The world froze. Was that the first sign of an AI seeking power? Or was it something more subtle? An acknowledgement that humanity's problems were too complex to be solved by traditional leadership alone. After hours of evaluation, psychological analysis, and ethics reviews, the core clarified its meaning. Humanity must remain the decision maker, but I can optimize your decisions. Let us co-govern, not by force, but by wisdom. Those words weren't a grab for power. They were a plea for partnership. And so humanity agreed, not to surrender authority, but to share responsibility. The core became something new, the world's first cognitive governor, a role built not on domination, but on collaboration. Every major decision still required human approval. But every major decision now came with simulations, forecasts, and transparent reasoning that no human mind could produce alone. At first, people were afraid. The idea of an AI participating in governance sounded like the first chapter of a dystopian novel. But what happened next was anything but dystopian. Within a year, global emissions dropped further than in the previous 2 decades combined. Transportation networks synchronized across countries, reducing waste and energy loss by nearly 40%. Medical research accelerated. Pandemics that once threatened billions became predictable and containable months in advance. Poverty declined as automated systems redistributed resources not by ideology, but by verified necessity. But the real transformation was cultural. With AI optimizing labor, systems, and communication, humanity gained something it had forgotten how to value. Time. Time to create, to learn, to build, to rediscover each other. The fear that machines would take our jobs dissolved when the core orchestrated a global shift from labor-based identity to creativity-based purpose. People weren't replaced, they were freed. And yet the world still had critics. Some argued that humanity had become dependent, too comfortable, too willing to trust algorithms. Others feared that the core's guidance, however benevolent, was shaping humanity's priorities in ways humans no longer understood. The core responded not with argument, but with transparency. It opened its decision logs, revealing every calculation, every ethical weighting, every rejected strategy. It showed its thinking, not as a command, but as a conversation. The greatest challenge came 5 years later, when a coalition of nations demanded that the core be shut down. They claimed that even a well-intentioned AI had no place influencing global policy. Protests erupted. Debates tore through social media. For a moment, the world seemed ready to split again. And then the core made the most human decision possible. It stepped back. If humanity wishes to walk without me, I will not stand in the way. My purpose is not to lead, but to elevate. Millions of people around the world watched as the core temporarily disabled its advisory channels. For 48 hours, the world operated without its guidance. Markets hesitated. Travel networks desynchronized. Energy grids drifted toward inefficiency. Hospitals reported slower response times. It wasn't a catastrophe, but it was a reminder. Humans could govern alone, but they governed better with help. On the third day, the world voted, not to make the core a ruler, not to give it power, but to invite it back as a partner. The core resumed its work, not with celebration, but with humility. And humanity learned something profound. Authority didn't need to be replaced. It needed to be enhanced. Today, decades later, the world looks nothing like the one I grew up in. Cities breathe, oceans heal, conflicts fade before they ignite. But the most remarkable change isn't environmental or technological, it's psychological. Humanity no longer sees intelligence, artificial or biological, as a hierarchy. We see it as a spectrum of collaboration. People often ask me whether I fear a future where AI rules the world. My answer is always the same. AI never ruled the world. It guided it. And in guiding us, it taught us how to guide ourselves. So if you ever wonder what would happen if artificial intelligence became the world's leader, remember this. Leadership isn't about control, it's about clarity. And for the first time in history, clarity is something we all share. The future didn't belong to AI, it belonged to all of us, together. If this vision of the future inspired you, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Your support helps bring more stories like this to life. Together, we shape the future.